Hello everyone, it's Sandra and welcome to today's video. We're doing an old-fashioned foundation review today. I love complexion products. It's one of my favorite products to review and to test. I just can't resist that promise of the perfect complexion product. Today we're talking about the m.ph Skin Serum Foundation. This brand is owned by Mary Phillips. She's a professional makeup artist, most famously known as being Hailey Bieber's makeup artist. I have her Underpainting palette and I really enjoy it. I think it's a beautiful product. And she designed the foundation to perfectly go along with the Underpainting palette. So if you are a fan of Mary Phillips, you like her work, you like that effortless, minimal, fresh skin, kind of like you look polished and put together, but it doesn't look so obvious that you have a lot of makeup on, I think this brand will really appeal to you. It's certainly an aesthetic that appeals to me. The one thing about this foundation that gave me a little bit of pause is the fact that I have seen it be quite glowy online, and I have combination oily skin with some texture issues. I've got some, large pores, I've got some acne scarring. So a lot of the times things that claim to have like a more glowy or luminous finish, they don't tend to be my favorite because I find that those types of finishes can emphasize texture. I'm more of like a satin matte girly. In the last few weeks that I've played around with this foundation, it has really pleasantly surprised me. So let's get into it. I have the shade Light 80O, and this was actually sent to me from the brand, but this is the shade that I had in my Sephora cart. This is the shade that I would have purchased myself. Anytime I see a foundation brand offering an olive undertone option at the light and light medium side of things, I get excited because it is quite difficult to find a nice olive undertone. And this olive undertone is a warm olive undertone. I was hoping it would be more neutral. It is quite warm. It's a very fluid foundation formula. I'm going to swatch Lisa Eldridge Skin Tint in the shade T5 right next to it, just so you can see how much less warm the Lisa Eldridge is in comparison to the m.ph. And then another olive undertone, more neutral olive foundation shade that I have is Kogan Do Aqua in the shade 213. So just to give you a little frame of reference. So you see here, the m.ph is considerably warmer. It doesn't even look olive now compared to the others. So I am a little bit disappointed. I wish it was, like a nice neutral olive. The other shade that they sent me is a Light 90C, which is a cool toned shade. Shade selection and shade matching is honestly half the battle with foundation. This is 90C from m.ph. This is 80O. Then this is Lisa Eldridge T5, and then this is Kogan Do 213. Right now, with my current situation, I think the shade 90C is going to be better for me. This is a light coverage foundation. It's like a light, I call it like a light medium. So there is some flexibility to it. I'm just going to do one pump on my hand. I have been testing it for the last few weeks, and I've tried a bunch of different ways to apply it. The first few times I tried it with my full-on skincare routine and with a beauty blender, and the finish was so glowy. Even after powder, I'm going to insert a picture, I was glistening. It was really pretty. It looked especially beautiful in photos, but it's definitely a lot more glowy than I personally like to be on an everyday basis. That's like a look that I would maybe go for every once in a while if I'm like going out to dinner or something, but it's definitely not an everyday kind of look for me. I don't love to be that glowy all over. It was glowy and long wearing at the same time. It didn't get worse throughout the day. It just kind of stayed like that. So that was nice, and it didn't feel like I had oil sitting on my face. Now the next round of testing that I did, I just used a like a regular dense foundation brush. This is a Zoeva foundation brush. Any of my BK Beauty foundation brushes, did a similar thing. I liked I liked it better with a brush. However, I do have to say that the brush that m.ph launched with this foundation gives the best result. All my foundation brushes are like that typical little kabuki style. They're quite densely packed. And there's just something about this particular brush. It's a synthetic brush. It's so soft and the taper is beautiful. Even the underpainting brush is phenomenal. You know, sometimes with some brands, brushes just kind of feel like an afterthought. But with this, from my experience so far with this particular brand, the brushes are extremely, extremely well thought out, amazing tools that really do enhance the experience with the product. So that's super cool. I'm not going to do like the underpainting method because on a day-to-day basis, I don't have time to sit there and underpaint. But I do use the underpainting palette, just like a regular, you know, I like to use like the contour and the bronzer shade, just like a regular cream and contour situation. So anyway, I'm going to take the brush, work it into the foundation, and then just gently blend it on the skin. And I don't know, initially I just thought, oh, this is just you know, it's just going to look really streaky, but there's something about the way that these bristles are cut. It just blends the foundation so beautifully, so seamlessly on the skin. And you get a really, really pretty result with a very thin layer of product. And in terms of skin prep, because I have combination oily skin and this is quite a luminous foundation, I find that for me to get the best results with it, I really lay off the hydrating steps in my routine. So I skip moisturizer. I don't use my heavy duty hydrating serum. I use a very hydrating sunscreen. This is the Beauty of Joseon, the Aqua Fresh. This for me doubles as a moisturizer right now because when I do an additional layer of moisturizer, I'm too shiny. And then when I'm too shiny, I need to compensate with more powder. And then when I do that, this foundation does look a little bit cakey, especially around the mouth area. So for me to get best results, I keep the moisturizing stuff underneath at a minimum. And then I use a small sheer, like a small amount of the foundation in a sheer layer. Is this going to be my go-to foundation in the middle of summer when it's hot and humid outside? Absolutely not. But for right now, like for spring, winter, fall, this is a really, really pretty foundation. And I do have to talk about the scent a little bit. There's no fragrance in this foundation, but it does have a strong scent. I'm assuming it's the ingredients in it, but it has like it smells like corn puffs. To me, it's like a mixture of corn puffs and powdered peanut butter. It's weird, but it does dissipate. It doesn't linger on the skin or anything, but you do smell it when you're pumping it out and applying it. It's not off-putting or anything. It's just interesting to have this scent in a complexion product. So this just gives a really nice, like I said, light to medium coverage. I personally don't like adding too much foundation on my face. Even if I need to build coverage in some areas, I would rather build coverage with like concealer just in small areas than doing multiple layers of foundation. This is a really well-performing, luminous finish, light to medium coverage foundation for when I'm in the mood for this look. If I'm struggling with dry patches or if I'm struggling with dehydration or dryness, I've definitely had my moments with this in the past month, and this just works really, really well for those skin instances. It doesn't emphasize dry patches. It just sits really, really beautifully on the skin and it lasts pretty well. It doesn't make me more greasy. It doesn't look really weird or patchy. The only times I didn't like the way it wore was when I used too much powder and the powder mixed with the hydration, it just ended up looking cakey. So you see it's quite undetectable on the skin. Definitely more luminous than Chantecaille Future Skin. A pinch more coverage than Chantecaille Future Skin as well. These types of foundations, these types of finishes usually don't wear well on me at all. They either start feeling really heavy on my skin or they start making me more oily, and this just kind of doesn't. It just, you know, it's luminous, but it just kind of stays like this. You know, if I'm blotting a couple of times throughout the day, the blotting doesn't disturb the foundation underneath. The blotting just kind of takes care of the extra oils, and then the foundation still looks pretty decent underneath. For concealer, I'm going to use the Patrick Ta concealer. I have this in the shade Light Peachy Neutral 2. This concealer really pleasantly surprised me as well. They recommend letting it sit for a couple of minutes, and it does have a little bit of luminosity to it. It's a very, very pretty concealer. It actually performs really well under my eyes, and to me, in terms of performance and in terms of the way it looks, to me this is like a mixture of the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk concealer and the Chanel Longwear concealer that just came out. It's kind of in the middle of those. The luminosity reminds me of the Armani, but it's a bit more long wearing than Armani. It wears nicer under my eyes. It does crease a little bit at the end of the day, but that's just the nature of things. You know, I have creasy eyes, but it looks really nice and fresh and hydrated under the eyes. Like, it's not as long wearing as the Prada concealer. That one is so nice. That one works well with a satin finish complexion because that is more of a satin finish concealer. It sets really fast and it just kind of locks in without needing to powder. I do need to powder the Patrick Ta just a little bit in order to get more longevity out of it, but it still manages to look really nice and fresh under the eyes. It's thinner than the Sarah Creel. Sarah Creel looks so good when I freshly apply it, but after a couple hours, it just starts to fall apart under my eyes, whereas the Patrick Ta does not. I took some up close and personal footage just to show you what it looks like at the end of a long day under my eyes. It's really not that bad. And like I mentioned before, I would rather have less coverage at the end of the day. Like, to me, a foundation, like a concealer fading at the end of the day, doesn't bother me as much as creasing and looking cakey does. That bothers me more than just slowly fading. I tried it with a brush and it was fine, but I like it better with a beauty blender. This is the Wet n Wild loose powder in the light pink shade, and I'm applying it with my fingers under my eyes. I really like this tip. On my cheeks, I'm using SOSHE Bare Muse. This is a nice, like, easy one and done. And then for bronzer, I've really been enjoying kind of mixing these two shades from the m.ph Underpainting palette and using it on my forehead just to kind of sculpt. And then again, I'm mixing the two shades and also applying it on my brow bone. And then just taking the foundation brush and just gently buffing over everything just to blend it all out. My temples are quite sunken in, so I don't want to add contour to this area because this would only make it look more sunken in. So I'm gonna add a little highlight to this area, actually, just to lift things up a little bit if possible. I just think of this as a cream complexion palette. It doesn't have to be used for the underpainting method. It looks beautiful, you know, if you're using it with that technique, but it also just works just as well on top of stuff. You don't need to use this underneath. All right, so I did my eyes and my brows. I applied a nice layer of my trusty Danessa Myricks liquid blurring balm. This is amazing. This is one of my favorite products ever. It just kind of melts the makeup together. It mattifies, but not really. I don't know. It just makes everything sit and look beautiful. But now I do feel like I need a little something extra on my cheeks. You know what? Let's do a little bit of Laura Mercier Fresco blush. This is an oldie. I saw that Laura Mercier, I don't know if they redid the formula, but there's like a revamp of the blushes, and I haven't even checked to see if Fresco got discontinued or if it got reformulated. This used to be one of my favorite blushes, but it's like a touch too warm for my current makeup preferences. I've been kind of going through all my blushes and just spending a week wearing each one and just really trying to dial in, you know, do I want to keep it? Am I ready to pass it on? Just because I feel like my preferences are shifting a little bit. So I haven't made up my mind about Fresco yet. I don't know if I'm going to keep it. For the lips, I'm going to apply a little bit of Fair Homidi Minky lip liner, lean into the warmth and do a warm nude lip. And then for my lips, I have two of the new Chantecaille lip cheeks. This is from the Flamingo collection, their spring collection. I have the shade Jacaranda, which is a really pretty pink. And then I have the shade Stella, which is more peachy. Stella is going to be a summer favorite. This is the type of shade that I like to wear in the summer. I think for this particular look, I think Jacaranda is going to be better. It's like a nice neutral pink, actually. Maybe I should add it. Maybe I'll mix both. How about that? This is still one of my favorite lipstick formulas. Has a slight vanilla scent, but it has the perfect balance of sheen and moisture and color. It's super, super comfortable. Let me add some blush on my eyelids. In about an hour or so, as the foundation really warms up, everything warms up with my skin, and some of my natural oils will come through, we will go back to that nice luminous finish. So in short, I have been really pleasantly surprised by the m.ph foundation. I think especially if you're somebody with normal skin, normal to dry skin, if you don't live in a very hot and humid climate, and you like something that's light to medium coverage with a nice, fresh, luminous finish, I think this will be a great foundation to try. If you're combination oily like me, I would say proceed with caution. You might have to tweak some things either in, you know, with your skincare routine or with your powder routine. It wasn't difficult to kind of tweak things and get it to work for me. It's definitely not as finicky as other foundations I've had experiences with in the past. While this is not going to be my go-to ride or die everyday foundation, it has a place in my makeup drawer. I think that, again, for those instances when I am dealing with some dry patches, when my skin's just feeling a little dull, a little dehydrated, the weather's all over the place, it's not too humid out, I'm not too oily, this is really nice. So I enjoy it. I think it's worth a try. I have seen people compare this to the new version of the Armani Luminous Silk foundation. I have not tried that. I wasn't really curious to try the new Armani anyway. I never was that crazy about the old Armani Luminous Silk to begin with, to be honest. Also, shout out to the brush. This really enhanced the user experience with this foundation, and I did not think that I would like this type of brush for foundation application. I was so skeptical, and I was proven wrong. Obviously, you don't need to go buy this exact same brush if you have something similar, you know, a synthetic brush that's just not quite so dense. Just goes to show sometimes we gotta trust the professionals. Really enjoy the Patrick Ta concealer. To me, this is like the concealer love child of the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk concealer and the Chanel Longwear concealer. It has a really nice balance of luminosity and looking fresh without being without melting away, without creasing too much. It has really decent longevity under my eyes. I really enjoyed this. Again, won't give you a lot of coverage. This is more of like a medium coverage concealer, and you do get a little bit more coverage if you let it sit for a minute or two before you start blending it out. And the Chantecaille lip cheeks from the Flamingo collection, I love them. You know I love them. If your makeup drawer is already overflowing with limited edition shades from you know, Chantecaille's lip sheet collections, I don't think you need to run out and get these. I think they've kind of released similar types of shades every year with their limited editions. There's always like a neutral pink, a neutral peachy, there's a red, there's a pink. So if you have old ones that you haven't used up yet, you don't need to run out and buy these. But if you had some old ones from previous collections that you've used up and you'd like to add just like an easy, everyday, My Lips But Better kind of shade, Jacaranda is a beautiful option just for like a nice everyday neutral pink My Lips But Better shade, or Stella if you like something with a bit more peach to it. I think Stella, again, like this is going to be a summer favorite of mine for sure. And that's about it for me. Let me know if you have any questions. If you've tried any of these products, let me know your thoughts and your experiences in the comment section below. We'll keep in touch over there. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a beautiful day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.